Hey folks, this is Kalani. Patch 9.2.5 is right around the corner. Literally, 9.2.5 will release on May 31st, so the very next reset will be patch day. Now you may be thinking, holy cow, this came out of nowhere. I haven't gotten any of the achievements or done the raids or any of my checklists done yet. But you don't need to worry. Patch 9.2.5 will introduce quite a few big changes, but there isn't anything being removed or going away just yet. There is quite a bit to unpack here, including some things you might not have heard about. So let's go through everything coming in patch 9.2.5 and some things that won't be in the game until a bit later. Before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. Alright, first up, the big new feature coming in patch 9.2.5, the one most folks are excited about, is cross-faction grouping. You can finally run around and do some content with members of the opposite faction, so whether you want to run some dungeons or do some raids or maybe even a spot of PvP, you will now be able to do that. To invite a player of the opposite faction into your group, you will need to have them added as a Battle.net friend, or you will need both members to be part of a cross-faction community in the game. Speaking of communities, you'll now have the option to allow members of the opposite faction to join your communities, so you get to control whether you want the cross-faction setup or if you want to keep things to just your faction going forward. While in a group with a member of the opposite faction, you can actually talk to each other, so no more zug zug or burr or kek. You can understand one another as long as you are in the party together. Now, even though you can group up and talk, you will not be able to complete any kind of quests together out in the world or really play together effectively. You can't heal or buff each other, you are still treated as if you are enemies towards each other, or at the very least you aren't allies. You don't share completion for normal quests or even world quests, so most of the new cross-faction activities are going to be based in instances. For example, you can group up cross-faction and take your group into most instance dungeons. While inside a dungeon or an instance, you'll be treated as allies, so you can heal, buff, all that wonderful stuff, and then you can also trade. You can take your groups into raids if you want to, or queue for rated PvP activities as a group, and then you can also list and join groups in the Group Finder cross-faction. So when you create a group in the Group Finder, you'll now start to see members of both factions sign up, and you can accept anyone from either faction to get your group going even faster. If you really want to stay faction specific and prevent all those pesky gnomes from joining your dungeon run, you can do that as well. There is a box you can tick to limit your group to your own faction when you create it, so you will always be given the choice of whether you want to interact with the opposite faction or not. Now, there are a few limitations with cross-faction grouping as it stands right now. The first major restriction is that you cannot do any random queue activity with a cross-faction group. So anything that requires you to sign up via a menu, like random dungeons, random battlegrounds, looking for raid, that kind of thing. If your group is ever put together from random players queuing into something, that will not have cross-faction support. In addition to these restrictions, certain instances cannot be entered with a cross-faction group. The Trial of the Champion, Trial of the Crusader, Vault of Archivon, Icecrown Citadel, Barradin Hold, the Siege of Borealis, the Battle of Dazar Allure, and the Dark Maul Citadel are all blocked off for now. If you read down that list, you probably understand why. All of these instances have distinct faction-specific changes to the fights. Having cross-faction enabled for these instances might have been causing all sorts of weird issues tied to your faction, so they've simply been disabled for now. They might be fixed in the future, but I would rather have cross-faction play earlier and have that kind of thing fixed later, rather than wait until all the kinks have been worked out to bring cross-faction play into the game. I'm very interested to see how things progress from here, because the faction imbalance has been a big problem for a long time now, and this is the first real step towards addressing it. The cross-faction gameplay is not the only restriction being lifted with this patch. The Sepulchre of the First One's raid will also open up for cross-realm mythic groups. Now, this usually happens every raid, it's not anything new, but what is new is the fact that the Hall of Fame is not yet full. Typically, the raid remains server-locked until 100 guilds have killed the last boss on Mythic for each faction. The Horde Hall of Fame has filled up, but the Alliance side has not. They only have 18 kills total, which leaves a lot lot of spots open for the Alliance Hall of Fame. Personally, I'm glad they aren't waiting until the Alliance Hall of Fame fills up. It usually takes quite a while, especially considering the major faction imbalance in the game right now, and it also makes so much sense to open this up alongside the cross-faction gameplay feature. So next week we'll be able to raid Mythic Sepulchre of the First One's cross-realm as well as cross-faction. Now in other patch 9.2.5 news, we will also get some new story quest lines for specific races. There are some problems over in Questlines, the Scourge are on the move. I guess the whole breaking the Helm of Domination thing maybe wasn't such a good idea, but you'll have to figure that out for yourself. This storyline is for the Blood Elves only, and I'm not going to spoil any of it, but you go on an adventure with some key Blood Elf figures to ensure the Scourge don't overrun the land once again. After completing the questline, we're pretty sure you're going to receive 2 rewards. The elusive Emerald Hawk Strider, which is a green Hawk Strider mount that we haven't really seen before, so that's a blast from the past with a fresh coat of paint. And the other very interesting reward is an ensemble of gear. The Blood Knight's Dedication is a new set of gear that every Blood Elf Paladin out there should absolutely love. It's dark red with green jewels and it embodies everything a Blood Knight can hope to be. Sadly, this is not available to everyone as it's specifically plate armor, but it also seems to be locked to just Paladins for right now. So the scope of these rewards is kind of small, but they're still really cool, and the questline is interesting to work through as well. If you want to start this questline, you can find Liadrin in Oribos. The only requirements are to be a Blood Elf, be level 60, and be exalted with Silvermoon. If you can't see the quest giver on patch day, double check that that character is exalted with Silvermoon. If you don't have that reputation, she won't appear at all. Blood Elves aren't the only ones getting some new story content though. Dark Iron Dwarves can also go on an adventure all their own. Theirs is a little darker, a little dirtier, and that's mainly because you're going underground. Where better to adventure as a Dark Iron Dwarf than through Blackrock Depths? Again, I won't spoil anything for you. You can delve into the mountains once again to find out why the Dark Iron have called you home. Now as far as rewards go, you don't get a full gear set like the Blood Elves, but you do get some shiny weapons to go alongside the Dark Iron Heritage armor, so you'll now have a full set. I'm not sure if there's going to be more than this, but for right now we know there is a one-handed axe, a shield, and a staff. All of them follow the typical theme you would expect, and they look great alongside the Dark Iron Heritage armor. There's also a new Dark Iron themed mount called Grimhowl. It's a fire doggy. What more could you want? It actually looks really cool with a Dark Iron armor plate, the axe helmet thing, and a flaming mane. Very cool indeed. To start this questline, you can find Anvil Thane Thurgoden in Shadowforge City in Blackrock Depths. You need to take your mole machine down there if you've forgotten about that. There have also been some environment updates to both Orgrimmar and Stormwind. They're not huge, massive changes, but they are quite interesting. In Orgrimmar, around about where the guild vendor used to be, there's a new kind of building. It looks like a stable of some kind. This could just be another empty building to fill the space, or it could be related to the Dragonflight expansion. What if this stable is for our new dragon riding companions? We know that we'll be befriending a dragon, we can upgrade them and unlock new skills and abilities and talents and all that jazz. It's a huge new feature, so it makes sense that our new dragon friend needs a place to hang out when they aren't carrying us around everywhere, right? So these stables could show our own dragon just chilling in the capital city while we're tinkering about in Orgrimmar or Stormwind. There are similar changes over in Stormwind. The stable isn't quite as large right now. I think it was actually bigger in a previous version of the patch, but either way, a new stable looking building has appeared in Stormwind as well. We'll have to wait and see what they could be used for or could be hinting at, but I really hope it's tied to Dragonflight in some way. I think updates to the capital cities are really cool, partly because it can help tease some new links or new tie-ins to future content, and partly because this isn't just a temporary change. This will be here for a while. We don't see these updates very often. I actually think seeing more permanent changes to the environment would be very exciting. There are some construction projects that have been going on for a very long time, and surely in all this time a bit of progress would have been made, right? It doesn't have to be huge, just like these new stables. A little bit of new scenery can go a long way, and it's always exciting when things start changing. Another aspect of the game receiving quite a few changes in this patch is Renown. For starters, the Renown skip item that you can buy from the heirloom vendor in Oribos has been upgraded. Instead of boosting you straight to Renown 40, this item will now boost you to Renown 60 instead. That unlocks more than before and covers pretty much all of the important parts of the Renown grind, so you could actually ignore Renown past that point without sacrificing too much on your ults. In addition to that, the Renown catch-up mechanics that have been in play for a while are being extended. They used to end when you hit Renown level 48, and they will now continue up until Renown 60. So you will earn extra Renown from various activities until you reach that new Renown 60 mark, making it significantly easier to get through the Renown grind for the first time. That's not the only help you'll get with Renown farming though, whereas previously certain Renown earning activities were only a chance to get a Renown point as a reward. Those activities will now reward Renown as a guarantee. So when you run Mythic or Mythic Plus dungeons, complete Torghast layers 9 through 16, defeat Shadowlands raid bosses, or win a rated battleground, all of these activities will always reward you with Renown no matter how many times you do them or how high your Renown level is, up to that current maximum of 80 Renown. So with all of these changes in play, getting to Renown 60 for the first time or for any of your ults is incredibly easy, quick and straightforward, and then getting up to Renown 80 on pretty much anything is also going to be way easier with zero reliance on RNG. All in all, good changes for the Renown system. In other news, we also have a brand new arena to kill each other in. The Enigma arena was originally supposed to be a bit special, with changing aspects and things the players could control. Using a console in the middle of the arena would change pillars and generally just mess with the environment, but that has since been removed. Everything in the arena is now static, just like other arenas in the game, so while it's not going to be super special, it is a new arena with new visuals and environments to add into the mix. More options for PvP is always going to be nice, whether that's new arenas or new battlegrounds, and I hope they figure out the issues preventing them from doing fun or quirky things in this area of the game. Having some arenas be different and special could be a nice change of pace, but I guess we'll have to keep waiting until we get another new arena, or maybe until they fix what went wrong with this one. There are also some small changes coming to Torghast. It's not massive in terms of actual content or any new floors or tile sets or monsters or anything, but it is a nice quality of life change. In 9.25, every wing of Torghast will be available to enter at the same time, so normal rotation, you don't have to wait and hope for your favorite wing to appear, you can hop into whatever Torghast wing you want to run. So whether you're looking for a specific legendary effect from a specific Torghast wing, or maybe you just really like running one wing over the others, you now have the option of every wing in 95, which is a nice change. Personally, I hope they don't do this kind of rotation deal again, but we'll have to wait and see what kinds of content we'll have in Dragonflight to see if it will even be relevant. There's also something kind of interesting coming with patch 9.25, a social contract for World of Warcraft. When you log in on patch day, this social contract is going to pop up. It will ask you to be friendly, to play as a team, to assist others, and help answer questions. It also reminds you that hate speech, harassment, threats, abusive language, spamming, advertising, and generally being disruptive are not allowed, and if you harm your fellow adventurers with the above behavior, you will be subject to punishment. This kind of thing isn't anything new in online games, but it is interesting that you have to accept this social contract to play the game. The only other option is to exit the game. So if you don't accept, you can't play World of Warcraft. That generally means that once again you accept that any of these behaviors can get you banned. You could already get banned for all of the above. This social contract is definitely serving as a reminder of that though, and I actually hope the dev team clamps down on this kind of behavior in game, because this contract doesn't really mean anything if the rules aren't going to be enforced. Now, in the same kind of vein, I suppose, there's also been an update to the reporting tool in-game. When you go to report a player, you'll get a pop-up screen with a drop-down menu. This actually changes based upon where you reported a player from. So if you report a player from their character in the world or their nameplate, you have the option for inappropriate name, cheating, or gameplay sabotage. Each of those options has subcategories, so you can narrow down your report quite easily and ensure whatever you are reporting a player for, it's noted down accurately. This should speed up the punishment process because it'll be easier for the devs on the other side of the ticket to figure out what this player was apparently doing wrong and if the report matches any recorded behavior. If you report a player from chat, it's a bit more specific. You can report a player for inappropriate communication or inappropriate name. So once again, you can narrow down exactly why you're reporting this player so something can hopefully be done about it faster. Again, hopefully this actually helps curb toxic behavior in game, especially things that have been explicitly explained to be against the rules, like advertising in public channels and abusive behavior. That's pretty much everything we know for sure is coming with patch 9.2.5, but there are some hints that the dev team are hiding their tracks a little bit on the public test realm. For starters, we haven't been able to see the splash screen for either Season 4 or for patch 9.2.5. The patch 9.2.5 splash screen is actually encrypted, something that usually only ever happens when major story points are being hidden in the PTR files. In addition to that, there's a new map for Tirisfal Glades. We obviously don't know any of the specifics about what's happening here, but it would make sense for something to happen to the area right outside of the Undercity after everything that has happened recently, especially considering that Sylvanas will not be returning from the Moor for quite a long while. We'll have to see how the Forsaken adapt to that news and how they move forward. There is another hint that the Forsaken will see some new storylines in this patch. There's a new encrypted model of Kaelia Menethil. You don't get a new model these days unless something big is going down, so with a new model for Kaelia and encrypted maps for Tirisfal Glades, you know we're going to see some large changes for the Forsaken in this patch. There are also rumours that we might have an allied race being added sometime in the near future, and it could be tied to pre-orders for the Dragonflight expansion that have not been made available yet. With everything going on relating to the Forsaken, it could be a new undead race. A lot of folks are pointing towards Dark Rangers or Sand Lane or Undead Elves for the new race, which is definitely possible. So we actually don't really know the full extent of patch 9.2.5's content, which is really exciting. I hope the dev team encrypt and hide more information in the future, because it's always fun to see something brand spanking new on patch day that hasn't been spoiled through the PTR testing cycle. Now you may be thinking, hold on Kalani, what about this Season 4 I've been hearing so much about? All 3 Shadowlands raids, weird new affixes, higher item level loot, raid loot vendors, a new rotation of Mythic Plus dungeons. Where's all that? Well, it hasn't gone anywhere, that's all a part of Season 4 still, but while Season 4 has been tested on the patch 9.2.5 public test realm, they're not actually going to release at the same time. Patch 9.2.5 is going to release next week, and then Season 4 will start later on down the line, so we don't get both of them at the same time. We get 9.2.5 first, and then Season 4 probably a few months after. The only official statement we have for the release date of Season 4 is that it will release sometime later this summer. That's a pretty big window, but we can narrow it down just a teeny bit. The main timeline hint we have for the next season is that apparently Season 3 will last for the standard season duration, which I believe has been 6 or 7 months, somewhere around about there, and we're still quite a ways off that number. Season 3 started at the beginning of March, which means we're only about 3 months in, so we're maybe at the halfway mark at this point. That means we can expect Season 4 to arrive in August or September-ish, and before you say that September isn't summer, the last day of summer is actually September 22nd, so as long as the season drops before that date, Blizzard will not technically be wrong. Either way, Season 4 will come later and not with patch 9.2.5. That does give us something else to look forward to in the coming months though, so if patch 9.2.5 looks a little light in terms of content, there is more coming to hold us over until the Dragonflight expansion. Speaking of Dragonflight, I do expect the alpha to start up sometime within the next month, so we should get a whole Dragon's Horde of new information soon, and we'll finally get some hands-on experience with how the Dragonflight expansion is shaping up and how many of these new features actually work in-game. And then real quick to wrap up this video, I just want to talk about some things that you don't really need to be worried about just yet. Usually when a patch is coming up, there's a whole list of things to get done, especially when we can expect a new season with changes to raids and Mythic Plus and all that jazz. So for right now, the ahead of the curve and cutting edge achievements are not going away. We have until the start of Season 4 for that kind of thing. The same thing goes for Mythic Plus achievements, rating achievements and mounts, PvP rating, pretty much everything that resets with the start of a new season. We don't have to worry about it, so we still have plenty of time left to get those things ticked off. And that's everything coming in patch 9.2.5, as well as some things for a little bit afterwards. What are you most excited about in patch 9.2.5? Do you have any plans to make a character on the opposite faction now that we'll be able to play together more often? And which race do you hope gets storyline quests and new transmog next? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to everyone who's subscribed on Twitch. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.